Do an interior prep, show you how to get the surfaces, the various surfaces of the interior of your car ready for wipe new. One of the real important things about this product, and we've discussed it when we're doing other projects, is that once you put it on the surface, that surface is sealed. So it's really important to go through your car and get it as absolutely clean as possible. Now, again, you want to make sure all the makeup is off of the button surfaces. These are areas that are troublesome where you constantly are turning on and off your lights. Ladies tend to get makeup in these surfaces. You want to make sure all that's gone. Leather, it's a real porous surface, and over the years you can see it just gets kind of dull and dingy. If you were to coat that with white new right now, that's the way it's always going to look. So before you do it, you want to get it as good as you possibly can. We're just using, this is just your garden variety all-purpose cleaner. 409 works great. I think this is called Purple Magic or something like that. You can buy it at Advanced or AutoZone. What you want to do when you're cleaning leather, typically factory leather is only on the seating surface from this little seam down. This is actually vinyl, and a lot of factory leather is closer to vinyl in nature than actual leather like you find on a baseball glove. But you still have to be kind of careful about how you clean this. Some of the lighter colored leathers, if you soak it, if you spray on it and it runs, sometimes you can leave a streak, and you want to be real careful. So always use the product first in an inconspicuous spot on the seat, like where a seat bag meets the bottom, just to make sure you're not going to cause any damage. Put a little bit here, and just do like a test clean. Make sure, number one, that it's going to come clean, and number two, that it's not softening the leather or bleaching it out. And if everything goes well there, then what we normally do is we'll start with the back of the seat. I'm actually going to spray this. We've got a carpet brush here. It's a nylon bristle, fairly stiff, and what it'll do is it'll actually act to agitate all that ingrained dirt out of this grain of the leather. You want to scrub fairly aggressively. Keep it wet while you're doing this. Don't let it dry out. And then you just come back with a cotton towel, wipe the residue off. Take your time, and where these little pleats are in the seats, make sure you actually physically get your fingertips in there with the towel and to get it clean. I'm going to clean this one more time. This is just a particularly dirty area. Sometimes it's just literally the leather has changed color, but I think that's still some ingrained dirt. And some of it can be wear, because this is where you slide in and out. You see that? See how that brightened up? And what you're seeing here, even though these look like dark areas, that's just where the leather's worn. Don't get too aggressive. Once you've given it a good scrub and you see it brighten up, if you were to try to go after what appears to be dirt in these little cracks, you're just going to scrub the dye right off the leather. That's just wear. So don't get too aggressive. You'll have little interfaces between this surface here, this vertical, and this horizontal, and this is where dirt tends to accumulate down in these little grab holes. If you look right here where his mirror adjustment is, there's quite a bit of dust that's settled down in there. You want to make sure that before you start coating that even that little bit of dirt is going to basically compromise the white new if it gets in the rag. If you were to pick that dirt up and then come across this surface, the possibility exists that you could create a streak. So little areas like that, as you're cleaning your broad surfaces, make sure that you take a detail brush and kick that dirt out of there. But again, you just work systematically through the car. I've started in the driver's side. I might do the door panel, the seat, sit down and clean the dash that I see in front of me, hit the center console, and then work to the next corner, to the next corner, to the next. And you want to hit every surface as you go. You don't want to really be bouncing around cleaning the dash on this side and then go to that side and clean the dash, because something's going to get missed in the, in all the moving around. So we like to clean the entire surface of the car that we're in at that particular moment. All right, if you've got a steering wheel that tilts or telescopes, make sure you move that up and down because there'll be exposed surface here that you can't see if you drive in this position. And some of them pull out, some of them don't. Make sure you pull it all the way back as far as you can so you can expose any dirt or dust that is settled up here. And then literally just start from the top of the dash. Be careful on some surfaces. I try to avoid spraying product directly on stereos, particularly aftermarket stereos. Those we tend to just be very carefully wiped down with window cleaner. That way you don't run the risk of scratching a lens or having a chemical attack the plastic. Alright. Again, we got steering wheel's a real high use item, so you want to pay particular attention to getting these really clean. We've actually had people send us pictures of their steering wheels that have discolored with whitening. And the reason that happens is that they're not being diligent enough in their prep. These things get so ingrained with dirt and skin oil that if you don't scrub them, you're going to leave traces of that behind, and that's going to interfere with how the wipe new works. So of all the surfaces on the inside of your car that I'd recommend paying particularly good attention to, it's going to be your steering wheel and your switch gear. And you'll see, just sit down in your car and look at it really closely, and if you do, you'll probably be shocked at the amount of dirt that's in that material. So take your time when you're doing this. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to coat this in the same manner that we cleaned it, and what I mean by that is we're just going to systematically work our way around the car. And what that does is it just keeps you organized. If you try to coat the dash and then move back here and coat a seat, or move over here and do a door panel and come back to this door panel, you're going to miss something. It's just the way we always taught people to detail cars, work in quadrants. So you'll work from the highest point, which would be your little pillar right here, work across your dash, come down, maybe include everything in this center area. Since you're the driver, most of the time it's very easy to access everything in the center console. So what I recommend is coat the entire dash top at one go and then come back and make this your breaking point. Make the center console your stopping line until you move over here. And when I say that, you can lean over and you can coat this side of the center console if you want to, or you can make your break here. But work the dash that you see in front of you, the steering wheel, move it through its entire range of motion. And once you've gotten everything in front of you done, then get up and do the door panel and do the seat last. Don't do the seat first because it's more comfortable to sit in the seat and actually coat what's in front of you. So, a lot of times people are inclined to just look inside the car and there's the seat and they go ahead and coat it. But at that point, you're going to have to wait a couple of hours to be able to coat anything in front of you. So just try to work systematically, work logically. And again, it's just like coating the plastic on the outside of the car. Take your bottle, invert it into the rag, and then just work the product into the rag until it's pretty well saturated. The other thing you may want to consider too is when you're doing an interior coat, because it's such a small confined area, this is the only time that I really have a problem with fumes. So keep your doors open, and if you can, if you've got a covered carport or a shaded area, work outside where you get a lot of ventilation. Okay, I got my cloth wet, and what I'm going to do is do the entire dash top because I don't want to run the risk of a streak. I'm actually going to start right at the base of that A-pillar. Take your fingers and get them to the edge of your windscreen. That way you're not getting product up on your windshield, and make your first pass right along the bottom edge of the dash and come right up to the edge of the next A-pillar with a slight overlap, cross again. What we're trying to do, this is not like applying some products that you see that are silicone based. You're not rubbing this in. You're actually just trying to get really long, continuous passes across the dash. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my brake this glove box because it's a nice sharp line. Gives you a nice little border there to work with. And then you just let your dash do its thing. Now, the dash vinyl is usually the driest vinyl in the car. It gets the biggest UV load. And what you'll find, you may see, and if you zoom in here, you may see that it's got some slight streaking, maybe a little bit of unevenness going. Don't mess with that. Just let it dry. Go ahead and continue on down your dash. And what we're doing is kind of like on dry plastic on the outside. You let it do its initial flash off. It seals the pores of that vinyl, and then we'll come back, we'll give that a second coat, and everything will look great. I'm just going to go ahead. This is like a faux aluminum, machined aluminum finish. We're just coating this. Now we're just going to move down. We're going to do the air conditioning vents. Again, this is why we have our brush. What you can use this for is to actually get the wipe new into these really intricate areas where it's just not practical to try to drag a rag. And again, you saw how I wetted those bristles. I actually put the bristles over my applicator rag and wet them, and that way if some of your product drips off, it drips into the rag and you can still use it. If you do that over the floor and it drops onto the floor, it's wasted product, and we don't like to waste product. Okay, we've got those done, and I'm going to go ahead and do his AC controls. These things really bounce back nicely. And again, you can't get your rag into all these nooks and crannies. You can do it one or two ways. You can pre-paint it, but what we're trying to do is achieve a seamless finish. You don't want it to be coated in one spot and dry in another, so just work it completely. Now you see I'm going up in this little crack here. We're going to move on to the area in front of the driver. I'm going to drop this steering wheel. I have coated the instrument clusters before, but I don't recommend it. What I usually do is coat right up to them. And again, take your finger, find the edge of the clear glass, and then one quick pass around. As you're doing this, it starts to get busy. There's a lot going on in the interior of your car, so keep your brush very close. Don't try to do all your brush work at one time. Actually, just use it as you need it. I'm working my way around here to this turn signal stalk, moving it through its range of motion because there's a gasket here. You want to coat it completely, and then move down. I've got the adjustment arm for the steering wheel. You're going to coat in there. As you turn the steering wheel, you'll see a dry area appear back here. So take your rag, drop it in, bring it around. And what we're doing is we're going to work this side of the steering wheel. Got a little gasket here. Gear selector coated. Back side of the steering wheel. Again, like I say, there's a lot going on. Use your angles, look at it from as many different directions as you can. Make sure you get every area coated. You can see you turn the steering wheel and you think you've got everything coated, but you can see this dry area here. So what you may want to do if you've got a steering wheel that locks is actually have your key with you so you can unlock that steering wheel and actually rotate it. One of the great things about this product is you can coat the entire steering wheel. You can coat the outer edge, you can coat the center part. You don't really have to worry about your hand slipping on it. It's not that type of product. We never ever would coat a dash with a silicone based, or not a dash, but a steering wheel with a silicone based product because it's actually dangerous. It's hard to grip the wheel. But you can restore the entire wheel with white new and not have to worry about that issue. Technique on this textured plastic really isn't as critical as doing paint or doing a dash top. You can actually put it on almost like you would any kind of aftermarket protectant. It's going to flow out, it's going to look nice and even. And again, I've got my brush here. I'm just, these little tight areas, these little nooks and crannies, you want to make sure you paint it in. Right here where he's got his little 12-volt adapter, pop the top off of that, roll it back, coat the top of it, and then paint the edges so you don't have a dry spot. You know, it's all about what, you know, your level of perfection is that you're seeking. You can get as detailed as you want, or if you just want to get an overall general look of newness to it, that's fine too. It's really up to the individual. We're going to try to show you how to coat this as a detailer would. I'm going to do this door panel. It's still not time to do the seat. A lot of times if let's say you got bad knees or your back's sore, it's easier to sit here on this chair and work this door than it is standing there. Plus you got the benefit of a lower perspective. You can see everything. What you want to do is make sure when you do this you drop your windows. It's just much easier to coat this door panel with a window down. So that's part of the procedure too. Now as we're working, again, it's like I say, keep your brush with you, and as you're working each section, work it completely. Again, there's no big hurry. Now as I go across this door top, again, wherever there's an interface between the two surfaces, get your brush in there. Alright, you can see I've kind of dropped down to the running board now, and what it does is it just gives you another perspective to look at where you've been coating. Now, as I go across this door top, again, wherever there's an interface between the two surfaces, get your brush in there. Alright, you can see I've kind of dropped down to the running board now, and what it does is it just gives you another perspective to look at where you've been coating. And when I sat down here, I actually saw that I had a couple of dry spots on the underside of the dash. And there are areas of the door that you just get a much better perspective of if you're able to change your position when you're putting it on. Like I say, use as many angles as you can. It's a little more intensive than most people are used to when it comes to dressing their interiors. But just bear in mind that if you do this once and you do it right, this will probably be the last time you ever have to dress the interior of your car. Now it's time to coat the seat. Again, this is the last thing you're going to do before you move into the next section of car. And it's just as simple as putting on your garden variety protectant. Now you may see, particularly on an older car on a driver's seat, the same sort of issue that we're going to have with this dash, in that the seat is thirsty. And the first coat, you may see a slight die-off in the first 10 minutes or so, but don't let that concern you. Just let it have its chance to flash off. Come back in about 20 or 30 minutes, put a second coat on, and it'll be perfect. I'm going to give this a few more minutes to flash off before we go and even this out. But you can see, there's a few light and dark areas, and I think that, this is something that's really important when you buy this product that you're able to see in this video. Don't keep applying product to this thinking that you can correct it immediately. You've got to let it have its flash time, and you'll see when we come back, the second coat's going to make a world of difference. But anyway, as I stated before, this was my stopping point when I was over on the driver's side, so I'm just going to pick up where I left off. I'm going to go ahead and begin at that little junction, drop down, so you can see what you're doing. If you remain seated upright, you just can't possibly see all these little areas. I haven't coated the seat yet, and the reason being is we're at the point now where we're going to get a second coat on the top of this dash and even everything out. Now, if you come back 30 minutes later with this rag, and let's say you did an incomplete cleaning and this rag has gotten loaded up with dirt, don't come back and put it on that dash top again. You're going to have to bite the bullet and get another applicator rag, because if you're dragging, a dirt impregnated rag across there, you're going to have trouble with streaking again. This one's not bad. We did a pretty good job cleaning, so we're going to go just like we did before. Going to coat the base, and again, like I say, when you're doing the surface of the dash that's closest to the windshield, put your finger between the rag and the windshield. That way you won't get product on it. It's not an end of the world scenario if you get white new on your windshield, but if you do, just make sure you wipe it off fairly quickly. That made a huge difference. You just have to be patient. Like I said, give that product time to flash off, and that's what you get. That looks great. Now, the only other thing we're going to do is maybe in about 10-15 minutes we'll look at these two seats and determine whether we want to put a second coat on. It's optional. The more coats you get on it, the deeper the shine. So it's just bear that in mind. I mean, if you like the look of it after the first go around, by all means, leave it. If you're somebody who enjoys a really high gloss finish, put a second coat on, even if it doesn't necessarily need it.
Here's the final results of the interior. All looks brand new.